Today we're going to talk about our closing day because this is our third property and this wasn't a closing day but actually closing days. That's never happened before.
No.
I feel like we're going to tell the story here. It's mostly like a rant.
It's going to be a rant.
It's mostly a rant.
It's a rant.
Most of this too is to warn people that no matter what, until it is done, it is not done.
We mean keys in hand. Like the key needs to unlock the door.
The key to the building that you bought, you have to be able to get into that building after you bought it.
Which we weren't sure if our key was gonna open our door. As a spoiler alert.
We're here.
We're here.
It happened.
It happened, but my God, there's probably gonna be some bleeps in this video. We're gonna try our hardest, but this video is definitely gonna have some bleeps.
All right, get ready for the whole story here.
Okay, buckle in. So, we tried to schedule this house tour and we were waiting around to see if we could go tour this house because he said that we could tour it at a certain time. So we rushed to get ready. Like we had like no time to, like we just woke up when he said that we could tour it at this time. And it's an hour and 40 minutes from our house. So we rushed to get ready and then we were sitting there waiting to see if we could actually tour it because our realtor, once we were ready, then told us that he didn't actually get approval to tour the house from the other realtor. If you want to tour a house, you kind of need approval to tour the house. So we rushed around to get ready and then we sat in our kitchen and waited for like 2 hours. Just sitting there not wanting to start anything because the second that we got the text that we needed to leave, we had to run out the door and leave.
I don't remember any of this.
You don't remember any of this?
Not really.
Oh my God, it was so annoying.
Nope.
It was so... We ended up not even being able to tour the house that day. And then the next day we toured the house with the realtor's like assistant. Remember that?
Yes.
We toured it, walked through it, we tried to keep emotion out of it. We got in the car and we're like, yep, this is it, we're gonna do it. Let's start this process because we've seen houses go up, like sell like that. So we knew we needed to jump on it fast.
Yeah.
We put in our offer, we do the negotiation, all of that goes smooth, all of that goes fine.
Yeah, that actually
went fine.
Usually
that's difficult and that was very easy. So we're like, awesome, like this is gonna be a smooth transaction.
If you haven't bought a house before, it's always gonna be a thing. Like there's always going to be some part of that process. It's always up and down, it's roller coastery. You never really wanna feel safe on it. Like this one was just a unique experience to us. So like we wanted to share it like a little bit extra right now, but know that if you haven't bought a house before, like some of this will happen. Like there is some normality to like things are up and down for you even on a normal day when you're not trying to buy like a property for a home business and things like that. It will happen anyway. On the appraisal, we're doing all of this during COVID times. So we were hoping that the appraisal would be like a drive-by appraisal because this place is a gut job. Like there is a lot wrong here. We were initially going in for FHA financing, which for those that don't know, that's like a very government-backed financing for first-time home buyers and people who are using that government-backed financing to do lower purchase amount down for that. With that, they're also a lot more stringent on the way that they look at a property. And so for us to have a full actual appraisal, like a normal time appraisal where someone walks through that property is really problematic because there's no effing way this place would pass that. Just not a chance. There's so much wrong.
There's so many things wrong. So remember he didn't even want us to tour this house at all because he said it would fail FHA.
Yep. Before we even got a chance to tour it, we were told that we shouldn't tour it because like we probably won't be able to get financed essentially. So we went for conventional, which we didn't know that we could actually do, but we switched to conventional with 5% down. That allows for a more lenient inspection, but that's still, if it doesn't appraise at the value that it's being sold and purchased for, then the bank won't finance that value because they don't have enough skin in the game of like if you default on your loan, they need to be able to flip that property and get their money back or more basically. So there's still a lot of risk inside there, even with conventional when you're doing like a big fixer-upper property.
Say you were purchasing the house, like you negotiated with the sellers and you said, we're cool with paying $250, and the seller was like, yes, I'm cool with accepting $250. But then the bank comes in and is like, this house is only worth $200, then you're only gonna get $200 from the bank. You're not gonna get $250. The bank does not care what you negotiated out. The bank only cares what they think the house is worth.
So if you live in New England or California or another place that property prices are really aggressive, you might be having to spend 20, 40K above asking, but it doesn't mean that the bank really cares about that long term if they don't feel that the property will always be valued at that.
You do the home inspection for yourself to make sure that there's no issues with the house, but also the bank wants to make sure that the house is safe for people to live in. So they could still approve you for that $200,000, but they could also put in some contingencies there, like you need to install a railing, safe for someone to inhabit it. But when we purchased our house in Tennessee, we had a shed in the backyard that was kind of like raised up, had like 2 steps to it, and the bank, with a conventional loan, insisted that a railing was installed so that way someone had a railing to hold on to walk up 2 steps. Even though this shed no one lives in because it's a shed and has a hole in the ceiling of the roof about yay big.
Way bigger than that. Talking like 6 feet.
But a railing, that was no-go. Even if the house is valued at, you agree that it's valued at, they could also say like, hey, you need to fix XYZ. And we knew that these sellers were not willing to fix things from our negotiations. They didn't want to fix anything. So we had the appraisal come through, and they appraised it, and it appraised for the right dollar figure. It ended up that we didn't need anything to fix. So that was great. But the appraiser, the bank, appraised the property for the wrong lot size. The property was originally 9 acres.
To give some context here, this is the first time that we bought a property from a business.
Yeah.
So the first 2 properties we bought were from individual owners like us,
yes.
right? Like a couple or a person that owns the property and sold the property. This was actually owned by an investment company.
Yes.
So they bought this house in January, about 8 months ago, bought this old dairy farm with 9 acres of land up here near the Portland area, and subdivided out parcels on that. It gets extra confusing. We're not going to go into all of it of how like they didn't do a true subdivision, but it's kind of a subdivision, but they did everything lawyer-esque to make it so it didn't trigger a subdivision. So there's lots of crap in play here. Lots of confusing things. There's an easement that goes through our land that we ended up buying for the parcel. There's lots of things that are in motion during all of this, which made it kind of the show that it was. That's why I'm telling you, if you're out there doing just a normal home purchase, expect that things will happen the whole time through, but hopefully not all of this stuff would happen to you. For appraisal wise, they're pulling records from all of these different towns and cities in the state, and they're pulling records from things. This still had the 9 acres of on record for what it appraised at, so it appraised at what we needed it to do.
But we are only purchasing 2 acres of land.
Right.
Where they appraised it at 9 acres. So obviously going from 9 acres to 2 should affect the home value. But apparently it didn't, which I think was wrong, but
it worked. Might have been part of like the COVID drive-by appraisals. I don't really know.
I don't know. Or they were just really sick of doing appraisals that day and just decided to pass it.
So appraisal happened.
Yeah.
Now closing. Really wanted to do this video was the closing was something that we've never experienced ever.
Oof.
We've never heard anyone
Oof.
have a closing this bad before, and we get there on closing day. I took the day off of work. We had plans for contractors and things like that after that time.
We were there 10 minutes early, and we were the only ones sitting at this table, and I was like, look at us, we're finally adults.
We get there for closing. We get told that the deed is not right and that it's being notarized in the morning. So they'd say, okay, just start signing the papers that don't need the seller there for that, like the mortgage statements and things that you're approving that you agreed to that financing, things like that. So we're starting to sign papers. The title company comes in and says, stop what you're doing. Closing's canceled right now. We find out we're about to sign to buy the house and not own the land underneath the house.
Yeah.
So they had the wrong deed assigned to the house that we were going to buy. So we were gonna own the house and then own some land that was like 4 acres away from where our house was at. They had the wrong deed inside all of the paperwork. So we're about 2 hours away from home at this point. We said, okay, fix this. Like, we'll hang out here while you fix it. We hang out up in the northern Maine trying to find stuff to do.
Closing was at 8 in the morning. So we had planned on spending the entire day at the property.
Yep.
Getting things cleaned, meeting with contractors, having dinner here to celebrate, you know, the closing of our dream home, our forever home.
Yep.
Got our dog, and he's fine in the car, and it wasn't hot or cold that day, so he was fine. It turned into, no, turn around and go home, and this is a 2-hour drive for us, so we couldn't just hop back in the car and drive 2 more hours back home. But it was also not like it's not happening today, it was it's not happening now. It could happen later today, but we're not really sure, so like...
We're obviously pissed. A couple days later, we have the reschedule of the closing. We had spoken with the seller before this time, and they had the easement that goes through our land to allow to these subdivision, you know, places behind us. We had agreed to sign something really basic to allow the power company to use that easement to maintain the power that goes to those houses. We want people to have power behind us, that's cool. We knew something was weird right away because the seller was like fidgety and like nervous and like not cool.
Oh, and also the seller's agent is his wife, so it's a team. Like the investor who is the seller and the seller's agent is his wife, so it's a team. So they are the ones who screwed up that document. The seller walked in, didn't apologize for anything that happened. Not even like a glimmer of like empathy or sympathy or pity for us for just going through this incredible turmoil, because that's so hard to deal with, to think that you're going to close on the property, be told that you're closing, show up and expect to close, and then have to be sent home to not your home. Like, that sucks. And like, thank God we weren't packed and ready to move, because if we were packed and ready to move, like, I don't even know what would have happened, or if we had a lease that ended, or if we sold our other house. He walked to the room, didn't apologize, immediately started talking about this damn form. Like, immediately. Like, I don't even think he introduced himself to the other people. He just started talking about his form.
I've got this form,
I've got this
form,
form,
you need to sign the form.
Blah, blah, blah. And like went on like a 20-minute spiel describing what the form is. And like, keep in mind, he talked to us for like 45 minutes about signing this form.
We know what the form is.
We know what the form is. Talked about it at nauseum, like way too much about how he needs this form signed so he can guarantee blah, 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 blah. And everyone was just ignoring him in the room because it went on for so freaking long.
Yep.
Sits down, we start signing papers. He interrupts again to ask the title attorney if she was a notary or something for his form. Once again, not caring about any of the other things, just caring about his stupid form.
Yeah.
Then we get through about 3/4 of the stack of paper. And like you said, the whole time he's just really fidgety, and he's mentioned this form like 5 more times about
nervous
how
that it won't
he
be signed.
needs this to happen. And then literally completely stops the closing, completely interrupts it, and says that this form needs to be signed now. And
we're
slides
mid-signing
it across.
a document. Mid-signing.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, let's get this taken care of right now. Let's make sure that we sign this form now.
Yeah.
When we get the form, it's not like the gentleman's agreement that we had talked about, like, hey, I will cooperate with letting this power company do this thing. It is 7 paragraphs of legal, straight verbiage that was created, legal team, by lawyers.
Yeah.
And in there, it basically says any utility can essentially do anything they want at any time on my land, anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm reading it. This is the first time I've ever seen it. He hasn't sent it to anyone that I know before closing. I see this document on closing day, and it's set up like this, and I'm just like, I am not signing this document. I'm not comfortable signing this.
Nope.
I've never seen this before. We now hit about 30 to 45 minutes of not doing anything except for trying to figure out what is going on with this form, because I am not going to sign it. He's not going to allow me to not sign it. And we're also not going to not close. So finally, we're at the standstill long enough that the closing company says, like, we can regroup and take time to like have you get legal counsel, go through this, figure out if you want to sign it or not. Close another day.
We'll shred all these documents and you'll close another day. 30 to 40 minutes of this it wasn't just like a discussion, it was like
kind of yelling.
Like yelling for a legal office where you're trying to close on a house. Like, it was definitely a passionate conversation.
Yeah.
It wasn't a simple like, hey, I want you to sign this form. It was like, this is a non-negotiable. You're doing this today. And it was a very heated back and forth between him, the seller, continually interrupting everyone to just re-emphasize and regurgitate what he has already beat over the bush about why he needs the form signed. And then our buyer's agent saying, if you're not comfortable, don't sign it. Then us just trying to read the document. I still think I read maybe a sentence of it.
Finally, we get to a point where we're unwilling to close for another day. It has to happen that day. We're unwilling to sign that form. He's unwilling to not have us sign a form. So we say, okay, why don't we have, there's a bunch of lawyers in this office. We're all lawyers except for all of us three, right? And someone just draft a new document that's not made by someone's paid legal team against me to make me sign something that has all control away from me, right? So yeah. I don't know enough about legal. Like, I took business law in my MBA and I took law courses and things like that, but I'm not a lawyer. So I'm not able to know if the and the inside this legal writing allows people to do whatever they want to do with a lot of different things, and it really sounded like that. So they draft a new document. It's a real gentleman's handshake type of thing that really
had typos in it. It was great.
Doesn't mean shit.
Doesn't mean anything.
And I did sign that because that really came back to like a one sentence of like, we will cooperate to the best of our abilities to allow this power company to do things through our easement, right? That's cool. That's what we agreed on. That passes. We're like, oh, okay, cool. We're all like, like, oh my God, haha, remember how that was? Like, how
scary that was right there?
Oh my God, yeah, we're cool now, right?
And then 10 minutes later, and we're getting real thin on this stack of documents to sign now. The seller turns to me, the buyer, and asks where the key to the house is that we're purchasing. He didn't show up to the closing table with the key.
Asked if we had the key to the house that we were there
to buy.
Like, do you go to the car dealership with the key to the truck that you're about to buy and say, great, now that I've signed it, I can use the key? That's not how life works. I've never heard anything work that way. There's nothing that works that way where you have the key to the thing that you're buying before you buy it. I've never seen that.
Why would you buy it at that point?
You own it.
You own it.
You have the key, I would imagine. He didn't have the key.
So our real estate agent left to go hunt down this key. So that way we could have the key to the house that we closed on. So that way we could do whatever the hell we wanted to the house because it's ours now. Thankfully, she found it. But my God, at that point, I almost just like burst into tears because we already had a 30-minute fight. The closing date canceled on us while we're sitting there. Closing date threatened to be canceled on us 2 or 3 times now. We still have the freaking dog in the car because we brought him again. I don't know why we keep doing this.
Poor Charlie. He's a good boy. We paid for it now, but we still can't even access it. Then we got the key. Our tradition is we always order Chinese food and celebrate and pop a bottle of champagne and just enjoy the fact that we went through the purchase of the house. Yeah.
This was much less celebratory from all of that we went through. It was very traumatic.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like an exhausting.
Kind of felt like defeat, but like we were in the house,
but
so
we won, but it felt awful. But we got Chinese, we popped our bottle of champagne, but Dave wanted to pick up Chinese on the way to the house, and I was like, nope, we are going to the house and we're testing to see if this actually opens the door. Because at this point, I don't even know if this is the key. Like, where did she find this thing? And it unlocked the door.
and then we went in, and then all the water was not for the entire house. There was no water. And we had done a walkthrough a couple days earlier.
We had done a walkthrough the day before our initial closing, like you're supposed to do, but since our closing got postponed so long, we weren't able to actually do a final walkthrough.
We officially have running water, we officially have electricity, we have internet, and we have heat here. So we are living in a building. That is cool.
Yeah.
So if you are about to buy a house for the first time, not all the is gonna happen to you, but just know that like it is not over until you have the key and you've tested that key and you've signed it saying that you own that key to the land that you own underneath the house that you bought.
Yeah.
Okay? Nothing is over until it's completely done and over. Okay? Don't get your hopes up, pretend like it doesn't exist until it's happened.
Yeah.
That is what we learned from this, even though we have done this before. That is what we learned from this one that we wanted to share. So thank you guys for watching another Wake Up Properties piece of this series here. We're gonna keep doing content like this about things like this, about constructing things, about finance, business, audio, all those different things that we're up to right here. And thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you want to continue to watch stuff like this. And let us know in the comments what you think about it, any experiences you had that you want to share, and if there's anything you want us to do a video on. Maybe this like lovely wallpaper right here.
Like this video if you have also suffered a horrible closing experience.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
I don't know where I was at. I don't know where
I don't know either.
Okay.